We were snowed in at the ski lodge when someone cut the power and said, "No one gets out alive until one of you confesses." Now, his face twisted up in disgust as he stared at Henry like he'd never seen him before. Elena started screaming, her voice high and hysterical, yelling about how drugging someone is rape behavior, even if you don't physically assault them. She was crying and screaming at the same time, asking Henry if he understood what he'd done, if he had any idea what that drug had done to Rachel's to consent or protect herself. Mia backed away from Henry fast, pressing herself against the wall like he might contaminate her if she got too close. I could feel our entire friend group falling apart in real time, all the bonds we'd built over years just snapping like frozen branches under too much weight. The intercom crackled and Rachel's voice came through, quiet but somehow more frightening than when she'd been yelling. She thanked Henry for finally telling the truth, her voice dripping with bitter satisfaction. Then she started describing in detail what had happened after he drugged her, how she'd felt disconnected from her own body like she was watching herself from far away. She talked about how she couldn't think straight or make decisions, how everything felt fuzzy and wrong, but she couldn't articulate what was happening to her. Her voice got harder when she described how Oliver had filmed her in that vulnerable state, how everyone had laughed at her stumbling and slurring, how they'd used that video to destroy what was left of her reputation. She said we'd taken her autonomy, her dignity, her sense of safety in her own body, and we'd done it for entertainment. Henry was full-on sobbing now, his face buried in his hands, begging Rachel through the intercom to understand he was just a stupid kid who made a terrible mistake. His voice was muffled and broken, pleading for her to see that he hadn't meant to hurt her like that. Rachel's response cut through his begging like a knife, her voice ice-cold and precise. She asked him if he'd thought she was just a stupid kid who deserved to be drugged and humiliated and driven to the edge of suicide. She asked if his being young and stupid somehow made her suffering less real, if his regret now erased the years she'd spent recovering from what he'd done. The silence that followed was worse than any response could have been, just the sound of Henry sobbing and the wind howling through the broken windows. Oliver groaned from his position on the floor, his face pale and sweaty despite the cold. He said we needed to get him to a hospital right now or he was going to die, his voice weak and scared. Walker agreed immediately, saying we had to do something because Oliver was losing too much blood and going into shock. Rachel's voice cut through our panic, calm and controlled. She said she'd tell us how to get out alive, how to get Oliver the medical help he needed, but only after Henry faced real consequences, instead of just offering apologies and tears. I found my voice for the first time in what felt like hours, though it came out shaky and small. I asked Rachel what she wanted from us. What would make this end? Her answer was simple and terrifying. She said she wanted Henry to come outside and face her directly, to admit what he'd done to her face instead of hiding behind walls and friends. She promised that if he did that, she'd let the rest of us leave, tell us where to find help for Oliver. Henry's response was immediate and panicked, saying she'd kill him if he went outside. Walker surprisingly backed him up, saying it was obviously a trap, and we couldn't trust Rachel to